right, we are back, and this is part 2 of our WonderCon podcast here. We are recording this again live for those that may be interested in either watching it in real time on YouTube or just later on YouTube to have some visuals. We are going to talk about a few of the things we've picked up and kind of show those as visuals as well. So if you are listening to the audio-only version, that is an option as well. So where we left off was kind of going into the late Friday afternoon section of things, and we basically made our way back onto the floor. And I think one of the big surprises of the weekend was what we found when we went to the floor is Ashley Eckstein was signing in the autograph area, which that wasn't a surprise. We knew that was going to happen, and that was great and everything. But two big surprises. One, she's charging $100 per autograph, which is so much more than we've ever seen her charge. We've gotten her to sign multiple times at San Diego Comic-Con, and usually she's been like at the Hasbro booth, and it's just kind of a free signature, and it's not usually super crowded. But obviously there has been a pandemic in between the last time we saw her, and that's changed autograph prices for one, definitely, as with all collecting stuff. But also in addition to that, Ahsoka, there's been a live action Ahsoka since then, and so I guess that's brought a little bit of extra attention, or maybe a lot of extra attention to, so then we wondered, well, $100, is she going to be very busy? Well, yes, the line, I mean, I think she has had the busiest signing lines we've seen this weekend, even more than a Kevin Eastman or a Ron Liefeld. It has been like wrapped around the snack bar outside to the outdoor area.
Yeah, I think part of that is they're trying to keep the line outside and not blocking the aisles, because I think that might have been an issue yesterday, so that's been the case. But it's been a very consistent line that she's had, and yeah, $100, and I mean, people are definitely willing to pay it, so by all means, she must know her audience well enough to know what they're willing to pay to meet up with her. I think you said something about seeing someone tweet that they waited 2 hours to meet with her.
Tony C. Funko had responded that waited 2 hours and it was well worth it. So,
and she seemed to be, kind of also a caveat to that is she seems to take a lot of time with like everybody, and so it is a very slow moving line. I mean, at some point we sat down for a break and we kind of, there's a guy in like a jersey, it's a Tano and stuff, so and it was bright color, so it stood out, and we watched him, and I don't know, he seemed like he moved maybe 100 feet or something like that in the amount of time that we took our entire break, which is great for people who want to speak with her and take time with her. But if you're just there and you want a quick autograph, that's not going to be a quick line. So that was, it's all a little surprising, but good for her.
Yeah, so she'll be at Star Wars Celebration, and I would imagine she's going to have huge lines there as well, although we hear Official Picks is back for Star Wars Celebration, and they do a really good job with managing those types of things and having kind of a virtual queue and things like that. So, but it was just surprising. I mean, we've seen the price of everything go up, but it was shocking. It was one of those things, I looked at it like 3 times, and then today I went back to the booth to take a picture of it. Now, she is here sponsored by CelebWorks, which is an outside agency, and that brings with it some fees as well, so I'm imagining they helped in determining a price, but whatever it is, it seems like it was the correct price because people are definitely willing to pay it. So we also went by the Funko booth. I don't think we talked much about Funko in the part 1 of the podcast, and a big part of the reason, although there's several that I think you and I are both interested in, particularly the Donald Duck 2-pack was very interesting, the Loki, some good stuff there, Peacemaker, but press is not allowed to participate in the booth at all. Yeah, so people, we've been here and able to get into line if we had been allowed to, but with our press badge it doesn't allow it, so we haven't talked much about it, but it is there. They're doing their big Funko Fanatic type party in the back there. Music's playing, it's got the big tiki head, and people are having absolute blast. Everything Funko does is always fun and over the top. I know for us, going to Funko Fun Days has been kind of a Comic-Con tradition for a while, and we've loved it. We've gone to Funko HQ's opening. All these things are always a blast. Funko always brings a big party vibe, and so they've definitely had it here this weekend. And so we spent some time just kind of watching from the outside, looking at the booth and stuff, and it looks like a great setup.
They're having fun. I did appreciate that they had the exclusives on display, like in a glass case out in front. So on the one hand, it was cool to just see them in real life, and they're like right there. But then on the other hand, it made me a little sad because they did, of course, they're Funko, so they look super cute. And the fact that we weren't able to buy them, so it made me a little sad, but it was also cool to see them. So I don't remember them having that sort of display, but maybe they have, and I just haven't seen it. But it was cool to be able to see the exclusives in real life.
Yeah. And then we wrapped up the night with two panels. We went to room, I guess it was 200A, which an interesting thing on Friday, seemingly, I mean, I'm sure there must be exceptions somewhere, but seemingly the panels pretty much were walk-in the whole time, and we had wondered with 200A, they had Kevin Smith wrapping up the night. Then you had, prior to that, the DC animated shorts panel. We thought, okay, those are probably going to be both pretty crowded. They're probably not going to be something that we can fit in. And then, lo and behold, Comic-Con International was doing their announcements on the floor like a couple minutes before start time about the DC animated panel and about they didn't say specifically there was room in there, but you know when they're making that announcement, it's kind of a call to everybody to come on down and get in the room. And so I thought, well, let's just go check it out, see if we can get in there. Well, not only did we get in there, but we were able to sit maybe 7-8 rows back. So there was really some good seating there, and it was nice to be in the panel itself. It was interesting because I hadn't even thought about like the introduction and stuff, but Eddie Ibrahim came out, who does programming for Comic-Con International, and who we have seen all over these years. I mean, everybody, so much of Comic-Con has been about the panels and these big, announcements and these big Hollywood moments and stuff, and he's been such a huge part of all that. And he is the person that, opens up gives the introduction and tells people what's going on. And so seeing him take the stage, it was not anything I ever thought about, honestly, during the pandemic, but it was something like, oh, this feels really good, seeing Eddie up there and making the announcement, and then him handing it off to Gary Renault from WB, and super PR guy, if you follow on social media. And it was like that too, because we've seen so many DC animated things over the years. We were in Hall H for, what was it, Kiss and Scooby-Doo or something like that. And something that just like brought back all these memories, and it was just really cool to kind of have that moment and see them take the stage. And then the panel itself, they had several of the writers that were involved and animators, and they basically went down a rundown of their kind of new showcase coming up, which it's, big kind of draw is Constantine and the House of Mystery, which Constantine kind of was the biggest name of the characters they're featured, simply because he's been in the CW, verse. He's also obviously had an actual big screen film as well with Keanu Reeves long ago. But in addition to the House of Mystery and Constantine section of the thing, they also featured the Losers, Commandy, and Blue Beetle. And so it was, they made a note specifically talking about really trying to highlight in the showcase characters that have not gotten a big, feature in a lot of ways, that really are kind of off the grid. And all of those are very much so. I mean, Blue Beetle is definitely the one I'm most familiar with out of them, but it was interesting kind of featuring them. And when you think about the world we live in, we were just at lunch talking with our friends about Peacemaker and what a big deal that was, and Judo Master and Vigilante, and we live in a world now where you can take these characters that are so obscure. I mean, as much as I'm into comics and stuff, I had never read a Peacemaker or Vigilante, book until they had this show on HBO Max. And so it makes a lot of sense to try and feature them in this DC animated way. It's a lot cheaper than making a big Hollywood movie or something, and then seeing if they get some traction and then going from there.
Yeah, and it was also kind of cute because the footage that we saw, the artwork or the animation was in like the 60s vibe, and so it felt very campy and very 60s cartoon. It was kind of interesting. So there was an 8-year-old child named Nate who was up there and to ask a question, and he asked if someone like him could watch it at his age. And they said basically Blue Beetle is the only one that he should watch. The rest will be there when he gets older. But it was kind of interesting to think. So it's in this campy 60s, 70s kind of vibe to the animation, but yet a child really shouldn't watch it. So that was kind of an interesting juxtaposition, I guess, in the description of what they're doing there.
Yeah, like a lot of things these days. I mean, a lot of the animation's made for adults as well, or sometimes for the foremost audience, and that's definitely the case here is the adults. Particularly the Blue Beetle one, though, really stood out to me in a great way, is that they really had talked about, like, they focused on it and really tried to make it as if it was something that was made kind of maybe by that Spider-Man animated team from back in the day, and that it was something that kind of just sat as a pilot on the shelf and never got to see airtime. And so it had, like, they specifically built in little, glitchy animation and some real over-the-top dialogue and things like that to fit, that old Spider-Man vibe. So I thought that was really fun.
It was, and in regards to the crowds and being able to go in there and get pretty good seats, There was a question, I didn't see who posted on the YouTube Live, and commented that Silicon was a much smaller version. It was WonderCon a smaller version. And yeah, in general, it is a smaller version of itself, and the crowds are smaller than normal. It definitely didn't sell out this year for any of the days and stuff. But yeah, it is definitely a smaller version just overall.
Yeah, and actually, that's a great question. I was sometimes going to get a little bit more into it in a minute, but we'll just go ahead right here. As we're recording, so yesterday, if you watched along with us or just listening in, we were up in front of the fountain, and that worked. I mean, there was a lot of energy around us, a lot of things going on, but it was fine. Today, like, that is not an option, though. It is packed in front of the fountain, and it's packed on a lot of the floor. This morning, I think a lot of us were a little worried about the show, just in that attendance was down. It didn't sell out, and we all of us, at least all of us that are part of this podcast right here, and those that are probably listening in on are kind of fans of Comic-Con International. We want to make sure it does well, so we're really hoping for those crowds to come in, and they definitely came in, because right now it is quite crowded. So we're off over by the Iron Man conga line is going on behind us here as we're recording.
I think Hall B is
Hall
what's behind
BA
us.
is kind of in our area, and this was kind of the closest we could be to the center of the con and be able to have any chance of there being a little bit of quiet to be able to record. So yeah, definitely less crowded than 2019. More crowded than when it was Friday. I was telling you earlier, like in terms of our like traction on things, like our views on our on-site visual guide doubled overnight. So I think a lot of people maybe just decided like Friday night or Saturday morning. I know we had a few people message us that said, okay, I've seen your pictures, I'm going to come out, or I wish I came out, or things like that. So I think a lot of people maybe made a last-second decision, which is nice when you live in, I mean, that's how we first experienced San Diego Comic-Con, is we drove down on a Saturday and bought a ticket. I mean, that's unheard of now, but that's how we first experienced it. And if we didn't have that option, we may have never gone to Comic-Con in the first place. So it's a smaller con, but hopefully it builds more fans in.
There is a lot of energy, and it's positive energy. It seems like everybody that I see are like happy to be here, and it's a positive energy. I mean, we took kind of a lunch break, and we were able to catch up with some friends that we haven't seen since pre-pandemic and stuff, and they were happy to be here, even though they had been kind of locked down and stuff, and they're doing things, and they're still slowly acclimating back to these types of things, but they were here, and they kept their N95 masks on and stuff, but it was fun. They were happy, and everybody that we're encountering and stuff are happy to be here and enjoying this time here. So.
Yeah, definitely. And so we ended up our night with the Kevin Smith panel. That was next up in 200A, and we had debated, like, that was another one, like, it's going to be too crowded, but it ended up, it was a very steady stream of people coming in, but I don't think it ever hit quite capacity in there, which is rare in a room that fits about 1,000 people for Kevin Smith over the years, and that also was really nice to see. This was one that I kind of thought would hit for me. We've talked about going down to Scum and Villainy and seeing them record Batman Beyond somewhere in the near future, but that thing goes pretty late, and it's a weekday night, and not the best with my work schedule and stuff, but seeing them there, because we would watch Batman Beyond from time to time, the actual live version where they would record at Scum and Villainy in LA, and they were recording during the pandemic with no audience, with glass in between them, and so seeing Kevin Smith up there talking to a big room like he does, not as big of a room as Hall H at Comic-Con, but a big old room of people excited to hear him talk, it felt very much like a kind of full circle moment of it was so nice seeing him out in the real world and hearing him talk. I mean, the panel is what all Kevin Smith panels are, is taking questions and telling stories. There was a lot about Bruce Willis at the end and kind of their former feud that has changed a lot and evolved, and it was a very kind of tearful end for, I think, him and a lot of people in the audience, just kind of talking about forgiveness and things like that. But it was a really great experience to kind of have that hour in the room with him.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, even at the very beginning, Eddie Ibrahim, that's how you pronounce it, I think,
Yep.
Came out to introduce the panel and stuff, and he was in his Oilers jersey,
Yeah.
what Kevin Smith used to wear all the time. Now he wears his lavender blazer more often. So he came out, and he was wearing, Eddie came out and was in that jersey and stuff, and he seemed happy to be introducing that panel, and he was obviously in the garb for Kevin Smith. And then when Kevin came out, he kind of came out there, and he said that this was kind of his first time in person in a group that size and stuff, and so he told it, he's like, so let me just start by telling a story, and it was, of course, it's Kevin Smith, an inappropriate story there, so I won't go into
Very
it.
adult.
yeah, very, very adult. So I won't go into the story details at all here. But he said he kind of needed to like warm up a bit, and so he told that story, and then he said, okay, cool, I'm warmed up, and then he started taking questions and stuff, and this is always the case with him. He tells long stories, and so I don't even know how many questions they got through. It wasn't that many because he gave lengthy answers and stuff. But yeah, it was. I think everybody there was super happy to be there. Obviously, he has a lot of fans and stuff, and in this environment where there are so many people who appreciate the comic book aspect and the pop culture stuff and Star Wars stuff, all those things. It was a very positive environment. People were enjoying themselves and stuff. But yeah, it was kind of it was kind of interesting to end on such kind of a sad, reflective tone and stuff. But it seemed like he kind of appreciated being able to share his sentiments and his feelings about that. Yeah, I saw someone recording it, so I wouldn't be surprised if it's online somewhere. So if you are interested in at least that last part, it might be out there.
Well, and every time Kevin Smith talks, it ends up being part of like a CBR or there's somewhere it'll end up Screen Rant. Somebody will do a big piece on it, and his feelings about movies, about pop culture, all of that. So it's out there. But it was a fun way to kind of cap the night there in that place. And for me, I always tell people, I know people, Kevin Smith is kind of a lightning rod for some people. I think a lot of people that maybe especially aren't as familiar with the 90s stuff, maybe more so, that are more came to him maybe in the later 2000s or stuff. But for me, he's I've always said Stan Lee's to me the most important, because not just in what he did to keep to build the Marvel universe with Jack Kirby, but also the way he beat the drum in a lot of years where people didn't care as much when Marvel was going bankrupt and things like that. But I also feel very strongly that Kevin Smith, and I know at least for me, coming to things like Mallrats and Clerks in the mid 90s, that was literally the first time in my life in the mid 90s hearing anybody talk about things like stormtroopers and contracts and stuff, being contract workers, being on the Death Star and things like that. And it was it blew my mind that was that kind of geeky talk, because no one that I went to school with talked that way. I didn't have any friends in the neighborhood or anything like that. So it wasn't until much later in life where now we have a lunch with friends today where everybody there is talking about Peacemaker and Judo Master and straight arm G.I. Joe figures and things like that. But back in those days I remember just my jaw dropping that somebody was talking about being a fan of Star Wars on a screen, and it wasn't Star Wars. It was it was a meta approach. And now you just click the internet and it's all that my Facebook, Twitter, etc. feeds are. So anyway, I always give a lot of credit there and always like to see him when we're able to see him. So a good way to end the night. We went to go grab some Coco's, dinner with our friend Jennifer, which is a really nice thing that's kind of been a WonderCon tradition for us for a long time. It's usually the Thursday night. This time it ended up being the Friday night, but it was nice to just go over there and get some food a couple blocks down. And then we come to Saturday morning. I made my way to the floor about an hour and a half or so before you did, and I kind of just ran around and tried to kind of see. Again, it's kind of a weird feeling of not rushing to an exclusive or having to rush to get a video. I have felt so busy this entire weekend and often overwhelmed trying to fit in the recording we're doing right now, getting cosplay, all these things. But it's, at the same time, I can't tell you that there's any one thing that's been dominating the time. It's just I feel super, super busy the entire time, and I feel like there's not enough hours in the day, which is a good thing. I always love, being part of a show like that. But, going around this morning, I picked up some absolutely beautiful comics. Actually, before that, stopped by Phantom Zone. They have a booth here on aisle, I think it's 2200. Picked up not the latest, but where I'm at, which is chapter 13 of the trade paperbacks of Invincible. So picked that up to do some reading there. I am just kind of slowly making my way through Invincible. I have loved it for years. But then picked up some beautiful comics, and I forget the name of the dealer, but if you've been to a WonderCon or you've been to an LA Comic Con or a San Diego Comic Con, they are the ones that just have rows and rows and rows of long boxes. They bring 50,000 comics to the place, and they're right there in the center of the floor. I started, and what grabbed my attention, I saw somebody else with this book. I'm holding up, and I know for our audio only people, they can't see it, but it's Fantastic Four 86, and it is a beautiful depiction of Doom hovering above or looking down on the Fantastic Four and Crystal there. and I saw it, and they had it in their hand. It was $25, and I'm like, to get that beautiful of a book for $25, and so they were going to get it. And then I went to look through the bins after I left, and there was a second one in great shape as well. So I was able to pick that one up and grab it. Pick up a Fantastic Four 231, just a little $5 book there that needed. That first appearance of Nomad. I am convinced this is going to be a big character to come ahead, even different than what we've seen in the past in the MCU, but also just needed for the Captain America run. And then Strange Tales. I don't have many Strange Tales, but number 150. This is the first John Buscema art over at Marvel. It's the first time Doctor Strange's name appears in a title, which is also awesome. So if you're audio only, Google it maybe. Strange Tales number 150. And then it's also got Dormammu, one of those big bads for Doctor Strange. Sister. And then Captain America Falcon, another one that we need right there, number 145. So just, yesterday I picked up a bunch of like dollar books, and even, I guess they were all in the dollar. I think the most I spent on a book yesterday was $5. And today I was like, okay, I want to pick up some nicer, more expensive. And for us, expensive is usually in that $20 range. We're not, there are so many, I love seeing all the beautiful wall books. And there are dealers here. There was one glass case that had an Action Comics, original appearance of Superman. It had Amazing Fantasy 15 for millions and millions and millions of dollars in this one case. I thought it's incredible to think in this one case is like all our cars, our house, every collectible I've ever bought is like one of these comics or half of these comics or something. So I love seeing those things, but yeah, we're not buying $200 books or anything, but I do love buying a nice $25 book if we can make that happen. So that was nice. They were making several announcements while I was in there on the floor about the Disney Quest. Disney Plus was here. They had a panel for Quest, a new show coming to Disney Plus, and that there was a lot of room in there. And our friend was in the room as well and backed that up, that it was a very small crowd in there. So again, this was all part of the time where we were kind of worried about the crowds actually, but it really did pick up Saturday afternoon. I just think what we have is a lot of people like you and I back at Comic-Con 2005, which is just people that are like, what are we going to do today? Hey, it's Saturday, let's go to a con. Okay, let's go check it out. And not as many people maybe coming in and really planning out big schedules for the day and things like that, but I think the people have definitely shown up. Also did a little bit of toy shopping on the floor. Picked up from our friends at Kismar Collectibles. They're out in the Santa Clarita area. They have a great comic and toy shop, and they are a great... Kimsar, okay. They really are always nice. They always have good deals on the floor. And so picked up the last two of the Eternals figures that I need to build the Gilgamesh Build-A-Figure. So I was, ever since we saw these at Disneyland in like October or September, and they were so stocked up, and I'm like, these are not the most aesthetically appealing figures ever. So I think that they're going to eventually be on discount. So since October, I've been like, I'm not going to pay $20 for any of these figures. So these were $15. Got Kingo and Druid. We picked up a few others for $12 back at LA Comic Con, or maybe it was special edition. So finally completed that without paying retail price, which it's been a long journey, but I'm glad to be done with that one. And then in a similar vein, picked up the Death Dealer from Shang-Chi. This is one that had wanted to pick up, and it was like, I don't know about the $25 price at Disneyland. And then it became $30 everywhere we saw it, like Frankenstein and other cons. And then so finally here, $20. So we went ahead and picked him up, and glad we did that. And that was at actually Toy Arena. We had lunch again with our good friends. It was awesome to see LA Rabbit, Pink Bunny, our friend Steve, 80s for Now, and just kind of hang out with all of them. And then from there, we went to the Droid Builder area, did a bunch of cosplay stuff. Now the Droid Builders are here. They've got their Wallies, their Chopper. You got some great video of them playing the Main Street Electrical Parade and doing like a little parade of, I guess it was Chopper and then a bunch of R2 units that were coming down the way. In general, the droids have definitely stayed much more localized to the Droid Builder area than we're used to seeing. So I'm not sure if that was like a rule that they're kind of abiding by, but a lot of times we'll see them like all over outside the con, up and down the roads. At LA Comic Con, they were like flying, especially that pit droid that's on the bicycle was like flying around everywhere. Tricycle, yeah. Here they've kind of stayed more localized in their area, but they bring so much energy over there. It's just like, I feel like I could just stay in that area and watch the droids do their thing like all day, all night. They are absolutely awesome.
Yeah, I think when they were doing that little parade, I got the impression that maybe the handlers or whatever were like maybe heading to lunch or heading somewhere specific, or maybe they had a panel or something to go to. but it seemed like they were being very purposeful in their direction and stuff, and were trying not to like slow down too much. Obviously they had to slow down because people were walking around them and stuff, but it seemed like they definitely had a destination they were heading to, so I don't think it was like they weren't like trying to be out there showing their stuff off, but it was cute though that they were playing the electric parade music, so that it felt like it was a little bit something, so that was all really cute and energetic and cute to watch.
And then I spent right 45 minutes to an hour just trying to pick up a lot of cosplay. There was an incredible Weapon X. He brought his even like this giant unit to bust out of, so we'll have that in our video if you want to see a young Wolverine busting out of his Weapon X box there. An Optimus Prime that was probably standing 9 feet tall, something like that, running around. Just some really great cosplay, so we'll have that in a video that'll be up hopefully the next day or so from this recording here. And for our audio only people, hopefully it's already up by the time that you are listening to this. So from this point, it's about 4:30 in the afternoon almost on this Saturday. I'm sad that we're already getting to that kind of like time to pack the car stage things.
Tough. I mean, there were several panels I think that we were both interested in. The X-Men 30th anniversary,
Superman and Lois, Marvel Live,
there are several, but then time is, I don't know, it's like it feels like time is just like disintegrating
So
while
fast.
we're here. And granted, we didn't need to take like a 2.5-hour lunch, but it was super nice to catch up with friends that we haven't seen in a while and stuff. And so you know, I don't know, it's tough that it's going by so quickly and stuff. I mean, we still haven't made it up and down all the rows yet. I'm not even sure where we are on the
about
number.
7 more rows left,
Okay, so we're almost there. I mean, we'll definitely get through it, but yeah, it's like even the panels that we were definitely interested in, we just haven't been able to get to them today. I mean, obviously yesterday we hit a couple, but we'll see if later on we're able to get to a couple, or I don't even remember what's on my schedule at this point.
Behind the scenes of The Boys presents, so Amazon Prime is here with Diabolical. That's the recent set of shorts to go along with The Boys, so I'd like to try to see that if we can. And then Common Rider, that's a cosplay gathering, but Bandai told us about that. I'm going to check that out. So those are a couple things on the list as possibles today. Bob's Burgers movies tomorrow morning. I guess that's going to probably be the biggest panel of the weekend, and so that's going to be opening up the con tomorrow. We'll so save a tryout for that one as well. Scotty Young has a spotlight panel. So
by the way, Scotty Young was signing right now, and he had a pretty long line. It wasn't an Ashley Eckstein size line, but it was a substantial line that went kind of around the corner and like broke up and then down another little aisle. So I didn't pay super close attention to how long he was signing for, but he did have a line as well, and he was there and stuff. So yeah.
So with that, I think we'll go ahead and wrap up this segment and come back with Sunday to wrap up the con in full. For those of you with us in YouTube Live, we thank you very much for tuning in. If you don't mind, if you haven't already, hit that like button. We do appreciate that support greatly, sharing it, all of that stuff so much. So
yeah, thank you for joining us. We weren't sure about doing one on Saturday and stuff, but thank you for watching.
Yep, definitely. So with that said, we'll wrap up here, and we'll see you in the next one.